I am Daniel Moore, 45 years old, standing in the heart of Aurora's kitchen, the restaurant I poured my sweat, tears, and soul into building. In the vibrant River North district of Chicago, Aurora is not just a culinary destination but the dream I nurtured since I was a boy with flour-dusted hands in my grandmother's kitchen. The space here is like a perfect symphony, warm golden lights spilling over tables draped in pristine white linen, the scent of fresh herbs mingling with the sizzle of seafood on the pan, and the rhythmic clatter of knives from the team of chefs. I take a deep breath, letting the familiar aroma of basil and melting butter soothe my mind. But tonight, I'm not the chef, not the one behind the stove or leading the staff. Tonight, I'm a guest, stepping into Aurora, to face my wife's family, people who've never thought I was worthy of their elite world. Before diving into the story, comment where you're watching from, and don't forget to subscribe so you never miss the latest video. The Parker family chose Aurora to celebrate Charles and Margaret's 40th wedding anniversary. They don't know I'm the owner, nor that I'm behind the dishes praised by the Chicago Tribune or honored by Food and Wine. They picked Aurora for its prestige, a place so exclusive that securing a table is harder than getting into an art auction. I can picture James bragging about pulling strings to get the center table. The truth is, Thomas Reed, a regular investor of mine, probably suggested Aurora without revealing I'm the owner. Emily, my wife, is the light of my life but also the source of my deepest wounds. At 42 she's still beautiful, sharp, with glossy brown hair and a smile that melted me the first time we met at Northwestern University. We fell deeply in love despite her family's objections, but lately pressure from her parents has made her waver. She wants to buy a house in Gold Coast, the wealthy neighborhood where the Parkers live, to keep up appearances. I refused, not because I can't afford it, but because I don't want to live to please people who've never respected me. The argument over that house still simmers, and I sense the tension in Emily's eyes whenever her parents come up. Tonight I know I'll face their familiar taunts. Charles will ask about my kitchen job, as if I'm still a hired cook in Wicker Park. Margaret will smile politely, but her eyes will say I'll never belong in their world. James will boast about a new deal or a powerful client, then glance at me like I'm a failure. And Emily, I'm not sure if she'll stand by me or try to keep the peace as usual. Her avoidance in moments like these always cuts deep, as if our love isn't strong enough to withstand her family's pressure. I grew up in a working-class family, where my parents toiled to ensure my sister and I had a better life than they did. My father was a plumber, my mother a bookkeeper for a small firm. They were proud when I got into Northwestern University, but never understood why I spent hours in the kitchen with my grandmother instead of studying or joining prestigious clubs. My grandmother, an Irish woman with silver hair and calloused hands, was the first to see my passion. "You have the heart of a chef," she said, when I, a clumsy 12-year-old, learned to knead dough for bread. Those afternoons, as she taught me to make her family's tomato sauce or bake ginger cookies, were the moments I felt I truly belonged somewhere. But that passion wasn't easily accepted. When I told my parents I wanted to be a chef, my father frowned. "A chef is a servant's job, Daniel. You need to aim higher." My mother was gentler, but urged me to study business for a stable future. I appeased them, enrolling in business at Northwestern, but my heart stayed in kitchens. I secretly took culinary classes, worked part-time at a small diner in Wicker Park, and hosted underground dinners for friends in my cramped apartment. Those meals, homemade mushroom risotto, or braised beef and red wine, were my way of telling the world I wasn't just a business student, but a storyteller through flavors. At Northwestern, I met Emily. She was like a whirlwind, pulling me into her world with her radiant smile and sharp intelligence. She studied law, hailing from the wealthy Parker family in Gold Coast, where grand homes and lavish parties defined life. I fell for her the moment she tasted my pasta, and said, "Daniel, this is better than any Italian restaurant downtown." But when I met the Parkers, I realized I wasn't just loving a woman, but entering a world that didn't welcome me. Charles Parker, Emily's father, looked at me like I was a worthless trinket. At our first dinner in their opulent Gold Coast home, he asked, "What do you do, Daniel?" When I said I wanted to be a chef, he smirked. "A chef? You plan to cook for others your whole life?" Margaret, Emily's mother, was more polite, but her eyes betrayed disappointment. James, Emily's brother, was blunt. "My sister deserves someone with a career, not a guy slaving in a kitchen." Emily held my hand under the table, but her silence during those remarks hurt. I knew she loved me, but I also felt the weight her family placed on her shoulders. After graduation, I faced a crossroads. My parents and the Parkers wanted me to pursue an MBA for a respectable job. But one evening while working at L'Etoile, a high-end Chicago restaurant, Chef Jean-Marc Dubois changed everything. A Frenchman with 3 Michelin stars, he tasted my lamb chops at an event and pulled me aside. "Who taught you to cook this?" he asked, his voice low but serious. "I taught myself, from books and experiments," I replied. He handed me his card. "You're wasting your talent here. Come to my kitchen, and I'll make you a real chef." That moment was a spark, reigniting a flame I feared might die. I dropped out of the MBA program and enrolled at the Culinary Institute of Chicago, despite fierce opposition from the Parkers. Charles called me irresponsible. Margaret told Emily, "If you marry him, you'll make your life harder." James scoffed, "Congrats, sis, you're marrying a servant." Emily stayed by me, but I knew she paid a price. Arguments with her parents, judgmental looks from her elite friends. We married in a simple ceremony, and our early years were a struggle. I worked 18-hour days, from head chef at a small Wicker Park restaurant to sous chef at L'Etoile under Jean-Marc's strict mentorship. I slept 4 hours a night, my hands scarred from burns and cuts, but each dish I crafted brought me closer to my dream. The big break came 8 years ago when Thomas Reed, a wealthy investor, tasted my Wagyu beef with truffle sauce at an event hosted by Jean-Marc. He approached me afterward. "You have vision, Daniel. I want to back your restaurant." With $4 million from Thomas and 2 other investors, I transformed an old bar in River North into Aurora. I designed everything, from the menu featuring dishes like citrus-seared scallops to the soft glow of the chandeliers. Aurora opened and quickly became a hotspot for Chicago's elite. 6 months later, we turned a profit. A year after that, I took out a loan to buy out the investors, becoming the sole owner. The Chicago Tribune called Aurora a culinary gem. Food and Wine named us in their Future of American Cuisine list. But I didn't share this with the Parkers. I wanted my success to stand on its own, not as a belated validation from them. Now standing before Aurora's door, I know tonight is more than a meal. It's a chance to reflect on my journey from the flower-dusted boy in Logan Square to the man behind one of Chicago's finest restaurants. And perhaps it's also a chance to see if Emily and her family will choose to stand by me when the truth comes out. I stand before the mirror in the small office behind Aurora's kitchen, adjusting my tie one last time. The gray suit I chose tonight is simple yet refined, not too flashy to arouse the Parkers' suspicion, but elegant enough to avoid their scrutinizing glances. I know Charles, Margaret, and James will judge every detail from my shoes to how I hold my wine glass. 20 years of enduring their disdain have taught me that, in the Parkers' high society world, appearances are everything. But tonight, I'm not here to please them. I'm here to confront their taunts, Emily's silence, and the ghosts of my past. The kitchen's aroma wafts in, a seductive blend of citrus, basil, and faint smoke from the scallops being prepped for guests. Usually this scent is a calming elixir, pulling me back to a state of control where I'm the chef, the orchestrator of it all. I step out of the office, passing the bustling kitchen. Anna Torres, my sous chef, is checking a tray of citrus-seared scallops, a starter I created from memories of proposing to Emily on a beach. "Boss, this dish is gonna blow guests away tonight," Anna says, flashing a mischievous grin. She knows I rarely enter Aurora through the guest entrance, and her eyes spark with curiosity. "Just keep things normal, Anna," I whisper, signaling her to stay quiet. I don't want the staff revealing my role to the Parkers. Not yet. Michael Hayes, the restaurant manager, is at the bar, polishing glasses with practiced ease. He catches my eye, raising an eyebrow as if to say, "What's the play here, boss?" I shake my head slightly, signaling him to carry on. Michael nods, understanding. He's been with me since Aurora opened and knows when I want to stay under the radar. I pause before the door to the dining room, taking a deep breath. Aurora tonight is a masterpiece. Chandeliers glowing softly, white linen tablecloths draped over walnut tables, and the murmur of guests blending with gentle jazz. Every detail here, from the weight of the linens to the chairs designed to keep diners lingering, is my creation. The citrus-seared scallops, the Wagyu beef with truffle sauce, even the wine list I handpicked from Bordeaux vineyards. All tell my story through every flavor, but I know the Parkers won't see that. To them, Aurora is just a stage to flaunt their status, a platform for Charles and James to flex their power, for Margaret to reinforce her social standing, and for Emily to try to keep peace between me and them. I recall the last time I saw the Parkers, 2 years ago, at a party in Gold Coast. Charles asked me, half joking, "Got enough cash to buy a place here, Daniel? Or still busy with your pants?" Margaret smiled politely, but her eyes screamed I didn't belong. James bragged about a new deal, implying I must be content with a chef's salary. Emily just held my hand under the table, silent. Tonight I want to see how they'll treat me when they think I'm still the failed chef in their eyes. Above all, I want to know who Emily will choose, me or her family. I push the door open, stepping into the dining room. Aurora's aroma envelops me, but this time it brings no peace. It's a reminder that I'm about to enter a battle without knives or fire, where I must defend not just my honor but everything I've built with my own hands. Aurora's glass door closes behind me, the soft jazz mingling with the clink of wine glasses and the murmur of guests. I step into the dining room, feeling the soft glow of the chandeliers casting light over tables draped in crisp white linen. The scent of my signature citrus-seared scallops, the evening starter, lingers in the air, a reminder of everything I've built. But as I approach the center table where the Parker family is seated, my heart beats harder. They've chosen the most prominent spot. Of course, the Parkers always want to be seen. I spot them from afar, a perfect portrait of wealth and power. Charles, Emily's father, sits ramrod straight, scrutinizing the wine list with the intensity of someone evaluating $1 million deal. His bespoke suit likely cost more than a regular chef's monthly salary. Margaret, Emily's mother, wears an elegant silk dress, her eyes scanning the room to check if anyone noteworthy is watching. James, Emily's brother, sits beside a woman I assume is his wife, Allison, both exuding the confidence of those born into privilege. And Emily, my wife, sits among them, a forced smile on her lips as she sees me. She's in a deep green dress, her glossy brown hair neatly pinned up, but her eyes waver as if she's trying to balance between me and her family. "Daniel, you finally arrived," Margaret says, standing to offer a perfunctory hug. Her smile is polite, but her eyes sweep over my suit as if calculating its worth. "We thought you might be stuck in some kitchen somewhere," she adds, her tone half joking but loaded with implication. Charles rises, shaking my hand with a firm grip, a power move I know well. "You look healthy, Daniel," he says, but I know in Parker speak, healthy means I'm not gaunt enough to meet high society standards. James merely nods, not bothering to stand, his eyes saying I'm not worth the effort. "This is Allison, my wife," he introduces, gesturing to the woman beside him. Allison offers a strained smile, clearly uneasy with the tense atmosphere. Emily stands, kissing my cheek lightly. "You're right on time as always," she whispers, but her voice lacks the warmth I crave. She sits back down, her gaze averted, as if trying not to upset anyone. I pull out my chair, taking the last seat, feeling the table's attention zero in on me. The air is heavy, as if I'm an uninvited guest. Michael, my manager, appears with the bottle of wine Charles selected, a pricey Bordeaux I personally chose on a trip to France last year. "Excellent choice, sir," Michael says to Charles, his tone professional, but his eyes flicking to me, silently asking if I want him to reveal anything. I give a subtle shake of my head, and he pours the wine, keeping my secret as requested. "We're celebrating 40 years of marriage," Charles announces, his voice loud enough for the whole dining room to hear. "Aurora's the perfect choice, isn't it, James?" James smirks, proud. "I called a friend who knows the management. It's not easy to get a table here." I bite my lip to keep from laughing. That friend is surely Thomas Reed, my investor, who often books tables for his associates. Dinner begins with the citrus-seared scallops, a dish I spent months perfecting. Anna, my sous chef, places each plate before the guests, her eyes meeting mine with a hint of pride. But Charles just stares at the dish, frowning. "Too fancy. One scallop for this price?" Margaret takes a tiny bite, then sets her fork down. "Interesting flavor, but I prefer simpler dishes." James shrugs, pushing his plate aside. "I don't do raw seafood." Only Allison and Emily seem to enjoy it, but Emily stays silent, glancing at me as if to apologize. I swallow the anger rising within me. This is the dish I created to propose to her, but she doesn't say a word to defend it. The main course, Wagyu beef with truffle sauce, arrives. I watch the Parkers cut into the perfectly cooked meat, but Charles complains. "The portion's tiny. For this price I expect to be full." James laughs loudly. "They must think this is art. Daniel, you're used to places like this, right? Being a chef must be fun, but the pay's pretty low, huh?" He winks, as if sharing a joke everyone gets. Margaret chimes in, her voice falsely sweet. "Daniel, you're still working at some restaurant, right? Is it going okay, or is the job too tough?" I reply curtly. "I work in food. Things are fine." But James presses. "Fine how? I mean, can you even cover the bill here? This place is pricey." Emily finally speaks, but not as I'd hoped. "James, stop it. Daniel works hard." Her voice is weak, more about keeping peace than defending me. Charles sips his wine, eyeing me. "Daniel, how much do you make a year? I mean, cooking's fine, but it won't get you a place in Gold Coast, right?" The table laughs, except Emily, but she says nothing more. I grip my wine glass, struggling to stay calm. They're not just criticizing my food, they're belittling the life I've built. Dinner at Aurora drags on like a play I don't want to star in. Emily sits beside me, but her silence hurts more than her parents' and brother's words. I clutch my wine glass, the rich Bordeaux Charles chose now tasting bitter. The Wagyu beef with truffle sauce, a dish I spent months refining, is dismissed as too small and overpriced. Each critique is a cut, but I keep my face neutral, waiting for the right moment. The table's mood grows heavier as the next courses arrive. The pan-seared cod with lemon butter sauce, inspired by my early days at L'Etoile, is brushed off by Margaret with a shrug. Fish is just fish. James doesn't even try it, pushing his plate aside and ordering another drink. Allison, James's wife, tries to be polite, but her tense eyes show she's uneasy with the atmosphere. Emily, the only one who knows the cod was the dish I made for her first birthday we celebrated together, takes a small bite and sets her fork down. She glances at me, her eyes apologetic, but says nothing. I'd hoped she'd defend me, just once, but she chooses silence again. When dessert arrives, a deconstructed lemon tart with Madagascar vanilla cream, my proudest menu item, Charles grumbles. This is it? I paid a fortune for a tiny piece of cake? James laughs loudly. Daniel, you should apply here. Maybe they'll teach you how to make a real dessert. I bite my lip, holding back. Anna, my sous chef, brings out the desserts, her eyes flicking to me with concern. I nod slightly, signaling her to carry on. I know my staff is watching, sensing the insults I'm enduring. Finally, the moment I've both dreaded and anticipated arrives. Michael Hayes, my manager, approaches with a black leather folder holding the bill, placing it gently in the table center. Charles reaches for it instantly, a reflex of someone always asserting dominance. But James is quicker, snatching it with a smug grin. Let me, Dad, consider it an anniversary gift. He opens the folder but his smile fades fast, his eyes widen, scanning the total. Something wrong? Charles asks, noticing his son's shift. James frowns. The amount, it's steep. Over $5 grand? For this dinner? I know the exact figure. A meal for 6, with the $1,000 Bordeaux Charles picked. Special dishes like the Wagyu and cod, plus wine pairings for each course. $5,500 total. Not unusual for a restaurant of Aurora's caliber. But for the Parkers, it's a chance to keep attacking me. James turns to me, his tone sharp. Daniel, how much can you chip in for this? I mean, a chef's salary can't cover this, right? Margaret adds, her voice falsely kind. We don't want you to struggle, Daniel. If you need help, we can cover it. Emily looks down, silent, and I feel a deeper stab in my chest. Before I can respond, James raises his hand, calling Michael over, his voice harsh. Hey, there's a mistake on the bill. You only charged for the drinks, not the food. The table goes quiet, all eyes on Michael. He approaches, glances at the bill, then at me, his eyes asking if it's time. I give a subtle nod, and the moment I've waited for all night finally arrives. No mistake, sir, Michael says, his voice calm but confident. He turns to me, offering a warm smile. Welcome back, Mr. Moore. Your table for the investor meeting is ready. Shall I close the wine tab for Mr. Harrington? Silence engulfs the table, as if time has stopped. Charles lets his wine glass slip, clinking softly on the table. Margaret freezes, her hand clutching her pearl necklace. James's mouth opens, but no words come out. Allison stares at me, eyes wide. And Emily, she looks up, her gaze filled with shock and a hint of shame. I stand adjusting my suit, my voice steady but firm. Thank you, Michael. Yes, close the wine tab for Mr. Harrington. I'll handle the rest as usual. Michael nods, taking the folder from James, who's still stunned, and walks away. I look directly at the Parkers, feeling in control for the first time tonight. Welcome to Aurora, I say, my voice low. My restaurant. Charles speaks first, his voice trembling slightly. Your restaurant? You mean you work here? I shake my head, offering a faint smile. No, Charles. I own Aurora. I'm the chef and sole proprietor. James lets out a forced laugh. No way. This is one of Chicago's priciest restaurants. The Chicago Tribune wrote about it. You can't. His voice trails off under my gaze. Margaret grips Charles's hand, trying to regain composure. Daniel, why didn't you tell us? We'd have been so proud. I look at them, then at Emily, who's still silent. I wanted to see how you'd treat me if you thought I was a failure, I say, my voice unwavering. And tonight you made that abundantly clear. I briefly recount my journey, from 18-hour days at L'Etoile, under Jean-Marc Dubois' guidance, to borrowing $4 million to open Aurora, turning it into a Chicago culinary gem. I didn't do this for your approval, I finish. I did it because this is my passion, the life I chose. Emily finally speaks, her voice shaking. Daniel, I'm sorry. I didn't know, but I raise my hand, stopping her. We'll talk later, Emily. I turn to the Parkers. Thank you for coming tonight, but I have work to do. I walk away, feeling their eyes on me, and for the first time in 20 years, I feel I'm no longer an outsider in their world. As I leave the table, the murmur of Aurora's guests seems to fade, leaving only the soft hum of jazz. The chandelier's warm golden light persists, but a cold shiver runs down my spine. I don't look back, but I know Charles, Margaret, James, and even Emily's eyes are following my every step. I'd waited for this moment all night, but when it comes, I don't feel the triumph I thought I would. Instead, there's an emptiness, mixed with the pain of realizing Emily, the person I love most, didn't stand by me when I needed her most. I head toward the private meeting room where investors await to discuss plans for a second Aurora in Paris, but the hurried clack of high heels behind me makes me pause. I turn to see Emily rushing after me, her face pale, her eyes brimming with regret. "Daniel, wait," she says, her voice trembling. She stops before me, her hands clenched as if holding on to something slipping away. I'm sorry, I didn't know what to say. I didn't expect what, Emily?" I cut in, my voice low but sharp. "That I'd built something worthwhile? Or that your family would treat me like that right in front of you and you wouldn't say a word?" She lowers her head, lips pressed tight, and I see tears welling in her eyes. "I was wrong," she whispers. "I wanted to keep the peace, but I didn't realize it hurt you. I'm proud of you, Daniel. Truly. It's just I didn't know how to face them." I look at her, the woman I've loved for 20 years, and feel my heart soften, but I keep my distance. "Emily, I don't need you to be proud of Aurora or the articles written about me. I need you to stand by me, whether I'm an unknown chef or a restaurant owner. But tonight, you chose them over me." She looks up, about to speak, but before she can, other footsteps approach. Charles, Margaret, James, and Allison appear, forming an awkward group near the bar. Charles speaks first, his usual confidence faltering. "Daniel, we need to talk. You can't just walk away after this." He pauses, as if searching for words to salvage the situation. Margaret clutches his hand, her pearl necklace glinting under the lights. "Daniel, we didn't know you'd achieve such success," she says, her voice sweet but calculated. I give a faint, bitter smile, unable to hide my resentment. "Proud, Margaret? When I said I wanted to be a chef, you called it a servant's job. When I married Emily, Charles said I'd never give her the life she deserved. And James," I look at him, my gaze firm. "You called me a hired cook tonight. You're only proud now because I'm successful, but my passion never mattered to you." James shrugs, trying to play it off, but his eyes waver. "Come on, Daniel, I was just joking. But you've got to admit you hit it well. A place like Aurora. I know some investors. We could expand together." I raise my hand, cutting him off. "I don't need partners, James. I built Aurora without any help from this family." He falls silent for once without a smug retort. Charles clears his throat, trying to regain control. "Daniel, we may have misunderstood, but we're family. Let us make this right. Why don't you come to dinner at Gold Coast next week? We can discuss your success further." I look at him, seeing he's trying to reposition me in their world. Not as a chef, but as a worthy businessman. "But I don't want that. I'll think about it," I reply, my voice cold. "But if we meet again, I want respect not for Aurora, but for who I am." Margaret chimes in, her tone soft. "Daniel, for our 40th anniversary, could you host a party at Aurora? It would be special." I look at her, then at Emily, who stands quietly, her eyes red. "I'll do a dinner for you," I say, "but not to win you over. It'll be my gift for Emily, and because I still consider you family." Charles nods as if sealing a business deal. Margaret smiles, but I know it's not entirely genuine. I turn back to Emily, my voice softening. "We need to talk privately, but not now. I have a meeting with investors." She nods, touching my arm lightly, a small but meaningful gesture. "I'll wait for you," she whispers. I glance at the Parkers once more, then head to the meeting room, feeling a new strength in every step. I step into the small office behind Aurora's kitchen after leaving the investor meeting. This room, with its weathered wooden desk, dog-eared cookbooks, and a bulletin board crammed with recipes, is where I often find peace after long nights. Tonight, though late, the golden glow from the desk lamp casts a warmth, as if soothing my heart after the emotional storm at the Parker dinner. I sit, open my notebook, and start writing the first lines for my upcoming cookbook with Harrington Press. "Cuisine is my language," I write, where I found myself when others doubted. Each dish is a story, each flavor a memory. But my pen pauses, my mind drifting to tonight's events. Not just the evening, but the long journey that brought me here. I glance at Aurora through the half-open door. The restaurant is empty of guests, with only a few staff cleaning up. Michael Hayes, my manager, is checking the bar, whistling a familiar jazz tune. Anna Torres, my sous chef, has left the kitchen, but I know she'll return tomorrow morning with her radiant smile, ready to test new dishes. They're not just employees, they're the family I chose, who believed in my vision when the Parkers called me a hired cook. Tonight, when Michael revealed I own Aurora, the proud looks from him and Anna are something I'll never forget. They remind me I've built not just a restaurant but a community bound by passion. I stand and step into the kitchen, where Zoe, a mentee from my program, is wiping down a workstation. At 19, from a working-class Chicago neighborhood, Zoe reminds me of my younger self, full of passion but short on opportunity. I started Aurora's mentorship program 2 years ago, dedicating Saturday mornings to teaching young chefs from tough backgrounds. Zoe has raw talent. Her seasoning, her way of turning a simple soup into a masterpiece makes me believe she'll go far. "Boss, can I try a new ragu this Saturday?" she asks, her eyes sparkling. I nod, smiling. "Go for it, Zoe. But remember, don't fear failure. That's how we learn." She nods, and I see in her the fire I once had. A fire no one, not even the Parkers, could extinguish. On Sunday morning, I bring the Parkers to the Hearth, a cozy diner tucked away in Chicago's Logan Square. Its simple setting, mismatched chairs, rustic wooden tables, and hand-painted murals feels worlds apart from Aurora's elegance. But that's what I want them to experience. Cuisine doesn't need glamour to touch the heart. I watch Charles, Margaret, James, and Emily enter, their discomfort evident. Charles adjusts his tie, unused to a place without linen tablecloths. Margaret scans the room, her eyes wary. James mutters something to Allison, likely complaining. Only Emily gently holds my hand, offering a hesitant smile, signaling she's willing to try. We sit, and the owner, Luis, an old friend from my Wicker Park days, brings handwritten menus. "Daniel, long time no see," Luis says, clapping my shoulder. "Today's special is brioche toast with poached eggs and hollandaise, just your style." I grin, sensing the Parkers' curious stares. Charles frowns at the menu. "No wine?" Luis winks. "Just coffee and fresh OJ, pal. But trust me, the food makes up for it." Margaret smiles politely, but I know she's hiding unease. The dishes arrive: golden brioche toast, poached eggs with runny yolks, draped in silky hollandaise. Charles takes a bite, and I see his eyes light up. "I didn't expect simple eggs to taste this good," he says, wiping his mouth with a paper napkin. Margaret nods, for once not complaining. James, reluctantly, admits, "Daniel, how's this better than the fancy places I've been to?" I smile, because it's made with heart, not for show. Emily looks at me, her eyes warm with the pride I've long craved. She holds my hand under the table, a small gesture showing she's trying to make amends. The brunch passes with lighter conversation than I expected. Margaret invites me to Charles's birthday party, a sign of reconciliation. James asks about the hollandaise recipe, showing respect for the first time. Charles even suggests I consult on a charity events menu. I nod, knowing our relationship will take time to heal. As we leave the hearth, Emily hugs me, whispering, "Thank you for not giving up on us." I kiss her forehead, feeling a spark of hope that we'll overcome. Daniel Moore's story, and at dinner my wife and her parents called me poor. Then the waiter said, "Welcome back, owner," reflects the social pressures and personal expectations prevalent in today's United States, where worth is often measured by financial success and status. Daniel, a 45-year-old Chicago chef, faces scorn from his wife's family, the wealthy Parkers of Gold Coast, who deem his chef career lowly compared to lawyers or businessmen like Charles and James. This criticism mirrors modern American culture, where creative or manual labor professions are often undervalued against intellectual or powerful roles. Yet Daniel's journey from a boy learning to cook in Logan Square to owning Aurora, a renowned restaurant, shows that success hinges not on societal norms, but on perseverance and passion. The key lesson is, pursue your passion, even if it defies others' expectations, but brace for psychological and social challenges. Daniel abandoned an MBA to attend the Culinary Institute of Chicago, enduring 18-hour workdays and being called a hired cook by the Parkers. His resilience, seen in building Aurora and mentoring young chefs like Zoe, proves living authentically yields lasting value over fleeting validation. In today's America, where financial stress and social comparison can shake your path, take inspiration from Daniel. Focus on skill building, foster a supportive community like his Aurora team, and trust that true success lies in finding joy and purpose in your work, no matter what others think. Subscribe to the channel to follow inspiring stories like my journey at Aurora, and share if you've ever overcome prejudice to chase your passion. Thank you for joining us. See you in the next video.